We can listen to him.
Maybe it can come later.
Honorables and esteemed
Please, Secretariat, let it come later. Yeah, let it come later. Sorry, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. So you'll be told there was a forest there, and when you look, you see no forest. You'll be told we used to do things this way. For those of you who have lived as long as I have, in the 90s, in the 80s, in this country, in the western part of Kenya, for those of you who come from the west, because our ecosystems are a bit different. By the last week of February, you planted your maize, whether there was rain or not, because you knew by the first week of March, there is rain. And the rains will find the seeds in the soil, they'll germinate, they'll grow, you'll harvest. Today, the rains don't arrive sometimes up to end of March, sometimes into April, sometimes not at all. Like we just went through the cycle of our worst droughts in 40 years as a country. And these changes, we are told, sometimes are because of human activities. We have also been told by those who believe differently that it's because it's the wrath of God and many other things. But we know the altruism is that the climate has changed and changed for the worse. And the genesis of this is human activities. We live as if there's no tomorrow. We pollute with total abundance. If you drive on the streets of Nairobi sometimes, as you drive, you see objects just flying out of people's cars. Packets of biscuits, paper bags of junk food, they just eat and throw them. And in the process, we are destroying our continent. But your role as legislators, you hold the pulse of your countries. The power of the pulse lies in Parliament. Whatever it is that we want to do, you must stamp on the appropriations of our resources. So I want to encourage you as parliamentarians to ensure that in your respective jurisdictions, you are appropriating enough resources for adaptation and mitigation programs on climate change. And it's been shown in parts of our country here, where rivers had run dry, you plant appropriate trees, within 2-3 years you have permanent streams running. So it can be done. Let's have our priorities right. Yesterday you heard our president telling the congregation that we have had to distort our budget because the number of children we must feed in school has grown from 1.5 million to 4 million. When you divert that money, something else suffers. You are told yesterday in the summit there by none other than Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, that the world is so inequitable that we have multilateral financial institutions running the world, lording over the world, with colonial archaic structures, where, as our president said, an African country borrowing from the World Bank, IMF, or all those institutions, you pay 10, 20 times higher than a poor European country. We want equity. And we want those who put Africa where we are to pay for it. Because human history must respect reparations for wrongdoing. Those who stole our gold, those who stole our timber, those who stole our everything, must be brought to the table to talk about reparations. Because we are not suffering because of our wrongdoing. We are suffering because we are collateral damage to misconduct of others. And that is what, as legislators, you must not shy away from talking. Fidel Castro once told the Americans, we have your debts, yes, we owe you money, but we can't pay, won't pay, until there is justice, fairness, and equity. We probably will not be that extreme, because we are governed by international instruments of borrowing and lending and all this. Then you have the Paris Club that will call you to humiliate you and call you are a failing state. Then you have all manner of descriptions, highly indebted poor countries, emerging countries. Today you are emerging, tomorrow you are highly indebted and poor. You know, they sit in Washington and decide what tag to put on you as an African country. And the tag they put on you determines whether you access credit or not. So Africans must come together. Africans must speak one language, one voice to protect our continent from the ravages of climate change, but above all, from those who cause this climate change from other places that you suffer most. We had a sad story in this country, honorable members, in the last drought and food shortage, of a woman in Mombasa who had absolutely no food. And her children were there staring at her as a mother. And the children must eat something. So she put a pan on fire, put water, and put stones and started boiling those stones with the hope that these children will sit hoping that the mother is cooking something for them to eat until they get tired and sleep for her to wake up the next day. That is our mother Africa. And I want to assure you, members of parliament, there are no angels out there that are coming to solve the problems of Africa. It is ourselves. And we must learn from each other. Kenya has passed a very progressive climate change bill that has been ascended to. The President of the European Union made reference to it yesterday. I want to encourage those of you, honorable members from other jurisdictions, we'll give you free copies to go with and see whether there are any things you can pick from there as a good precedent. If you improve on it, we'll also borrow back from you to improve ours even better, so that Africa can be in charge of its destiny. We used to be an agenda on tables of discussion. Eventually we crept to the tables of discussion. Now we are setting the agenda on the tables of discussion. And we must never look back. So Senator Kajwang, as you discuss to come up with a parliamentary declaration from Nairobi, I want to encourage us that as members of parliament you hold very unique positions in our countries. Forget about our petty party differences. At the end of the day, when there's a flood hitting Malawi, it doesn't hit the opposition, it doesn't hit the government, it hits the people of Malawi. At the end of the day, when there is a ravaging drought, it hits all of us. On matters of climate change, I want to urge us to be fiercely and viciously patriotic to our countries, to our mother continent, so that if Kenya can help Somalia, we will. If Uganda can help Kenya, it should. If Malawi can help Zimbabwe, let it be, so that we be each brother's keeper. I want to finish by assuring you once more that Africa is not poor. Africa is a very rich continent with very poor people. If we take charge of our continent, our resources, statistics will show you that Africa has a share of only 5 to 6% of international trade. But the commodities for trade are from where? From Africa. Africa, like you are told, pollutes least, we suffer the most. The ball is in our court as legislators. Let's rise to the occasion. Let's join our heads of state and work together for our continent. For our friends from Europe, these are the hard facts that are available in history. They are not mine. Let's work together and alter the wrongs of history. You know, for Kenya and Tanzania, you know, when they were doing that madness in Berlin in 1918, Mount Kilimanjaro used to be in Kenya, until Queen Victoria gave it to Prince Ferdinand as a birthday gift. See how they have played with our resources? But in Africa, we agreed our boundaries at independence are our boundaries. We shall never raise those issues, but they're part of our history. God bless you, honorable members. Discuss our continent, and let's build our continent, because nobody else will build it except ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there was need for a standing ovation, this was it. The Right Honorable Speaker, thank you so much for setting the tone.